Hi everyone, it's Webby. Welcome back to another video. If you wanted an SUV with a BMW badge on it, you've got a choice of 7 cars. If you want something a bit more practical, you have the odd numbers 1, 3, 5 and 7. They're the more square shaped cars, more space inside, bigger cargo area in the boot of the car. But if you want something sporty, you look at the X2, X4 and X6. They still give you a decent level of practicality, but in a different body shape that looks more like a sporty coupe than a traditional SUV. And in today's video, I'm going to be having a look at the X4 M40i. The X4 M40i is almost the top of the tree in terms of the X4 models. The only one above it is the X4 M, which is basically on steroids, effectively. So this is a 3-litre turbocharged 6-cylinder engine, plenty of power, all-wheel drive, lots of luxury inside, lots of technology as you'd expect from BMW. And in today's video, I'm going to show you around this car and we'll take it for a drive. So starting off, the X4 actually shares a platform with the X3. So they're basically sister cars, the X3 being the more practical car, the X4 being the more sporty coupe styling. So it does share a lot of similarities. Starting at the front of the car, you've got these satin coloured front grille, again on the X3. The M Sport styling at the front of the car and the same engine under the bonnet. The 3-litre straight-six turbocharged engine developing 265 kilowatt and 500 newton meters of torque. Run through an 8-speed gearbox and BMW's X-Drive 4-wheel drive system. It comes with the same body styling and alloy wheels as well. So we've got M Sport specification with 21-inch alloy wheels, and the satin theme continues from the grille round to the wheels as well, and also onto the door mirrors. The side profile is where you see the biggest differences between the X3 and the X4. The X3 is a traditional sort of square shaped SUV, whereas we can see with the X4 it's got the coupe body styling, which I think looks really nice. The roofline on the X3 comes much further along and then has got a much more vertical back window. The X4, as you can see, has got much more coupe body styling with this sloping rear roof which goes into the back window. Once we get inside, I'll actually show you that it doesn't really rob you of too much headroom and you still get a decent boot space, which is what we'll have a look at next. So looking at the rear styling of the X4, obviously quite different to the X3. The rear window's got a much more aggressive angle, which gives it the coupe body styling. We've got the M Sport lower styling down the bottom of the rear bumper, and then we've got twin exhausts which make an absolutely fantastic noise from that 6-cylinder engine. Coming into the boot, which is electrically operated, and we've actually got 525 litres of space, so there's actually still a decent amount of cargo capacity back here. Now you can extend the cargo space simply by folding the rear seats down. We've got a lever either side of the car which we can literally just pull and it will drop the seats down automatically for us. That little parcel shelf comes out, and when all that's said and done, you've got 1,430 litres of space, which in a small car like this is absolutely fantastic. Now if we have a look at the inside of the X4 M40i, it's very high quality, very luxurious in here. We've got some lovely aluminium door trims here on the doors to start with. Nice leather door padded with nice stitching. We've got the Harman Kardon audio system, which sounds absolutely superb. Coming round, we've then got these lovely sport seats with plenty of bolstering, beautiful leather. Again, stitching carries over to the seats there. Down the bottom here, so we've got forward electrical adjustment for the driver and passenger side. The driver's side also gets 2 memory positions as well. This button here actually allows you to adjust the bolsters of the driver's seat as well. So if you're going to go for some spirited driving, it actually holds you in a bit, which is quite good when you go around a quick corner. Other nice things that we get, we've got the full digital dashboard there. So that's all your speedo, your rev counter, everything is displayed on there for you. And then we've got the larger display in the centre there, which we'll have a look at in a second. We also get a lovely panoramic sunroof, which is actually standard on this car. It's actually worth noting there's no optional extras on this car. Everything you see is actually factory fitted and standard. So we come to the 10.25 inch display on top of the dashboard. As you can see, we're running Apple CarPlay at the minute, which is actually wireless. The controls for the screen on the buttons down here for the iDrive, but mostly it's also touchscreen as well. You do have the option of having the gesture control. I'm not personally a fan of it. I prefer to touch the screen or use the buttons myself, and I think gesture control can also be a little bit sort of hit and miss. So if we turn the Apple CarPlay off and come back to the standard sort of BMW setup, you've got your home screen here, but then you can also swipe across to look at some other features and functions as well. So this is, as you can see, this is actually really simple to use, and you don't really need the gesture control, I don't think. It's perfectly fine just using the touchscreen. So sitting just below that sat-nav system there, we've got our favourite buttons here across the middle of the dash, which BMW are well known for, followed by the dual zone climate control. This car's got heated seats as well, which is obviously a welcome addition on a colder morning. Just below that, you've got a wireless charging pad. It does fit larger phones like my iPhone 12 Pro Max, so you don't have to worry too much about fitting your larger smartphones in there, plus also a USB charging point, and a decent couple of cup holders there as well. So coming down there, obviously we've got the gear stick. Next to that, you've got your drive select modes. They're all pre-programmed to certain parameters for each individual setting, but you can go into the entertainment system and individualize them. So if you wanted softer steering but firmer suspension, then you can have that. Coming to the steering wheel, it's lovely leather sort of trimmed here on the airbag section. It's nice and thick and chunky. So yeah, it feels sort of quite nice in the hand when you're driving. On the left hand side, we've got buttons there for your adaptive cruise control, and on the right hand side, the buttons that will do things like adjust your volume, change track or radio station. So it's actually quite easy to use. It's not too cluttered. It's a nice steering wheel. And then we've got that lovely digital dash that I mentioned earlier, again, which you can change when you put it in sport mode. If you've got it in comfort, we'd see it change very slightly there, and if we go into economy, again it changes there. So there's lots of different things you can do with that digital display as well. Coming into the back of the X4, and it's actually not as cramped in here as you might think. I'm only 5'6", so actually I'm okay, although someone who might be sort of over 6 foot might struggle a little bit. Leg space is actually really good, and you can actually fit your feet under the seat in front of you, which for a longer journey is actually quite advantageous. You've got a couple of nets on the back of the seats. You can stick books or iPads or something down there. We've got rear air vents and also controls for rear air conditioning, which is another nice feature to have. A couple of USB-C fast charging points, so the kids can keep their devices charged nice and easily. We've got ISOFIX child seat fixing points on the outer two seats. And then we've got the obligatory armrest, which push a little button, and we've got a couple of cup holders as well. So it's actually quite a nice place to be back here. Having the sunroof does make a big difference, because when you've got the blind open, it lets a lot of light in. If you didn't have that sunroof, it would actually be quite dark in here because of the nature of the lower roof. Right, so let's take this X4 M40i for a drive and see how she goes. It does feel very familiar in here, and it's very similar to obviously the X3. But the dashboard itself does feel like it's angled slightly more towards the driver, so it does give you that sort of sporty car feel. Despite sitting on 21-inch wheels, the ride's actually quite comfortable. It can be a little bit firm at times, but obviously this is a sporty car, so you've got to expect sporty handling. So putting the engine in the comfort mode on the driver select buttons down here on the center console is your everyday driving mode. But if you want to have a bit of fun, then obviously that's when you put it in sport. It will firm up the suspension, the steering will become slightly heavier, and also the throttle response will be a bit sharper as well. So if you want a practical car, you'd buy the X3. But if you want something with a bit more sporty styling, then obviously you'd buy the X4. The X3 does outsell the X4 by about 3 to 1, but I guess that's because a lot more people buy these as a family car. As you'd expect, we're fully covered with safety features on the X4, autonomous braking, blind spot monitor, lane keeping aid, adaptive cruise control. Everything is standard on this M40i model. Now, visibility is generally good on the X4. The only slight negative is the rear window, as you'd expect, because it is a lot smaller than the window in an X3. You can still see plenty out, although you do get the headrest a little bit in the way in the back seats, so it restricts you slightly. But yeah, you can still see what you're doing just about. I'm getting used to having wireless Apple CarPlay. I think it's really, really good. You don't have cables everywhere, cluttered around the cabin of the car. You get in, it connects straight away. It's a really good feature to have. So like all BMWs, the X4 has got 50-50 weight distribution. And what that means is the weight of the car is spread to the front and the back, so that one end of the car isn't disproportionately heavier than the other end. So that gives you much better handling and road holding. So if you are attacking tight, twisty set of corners, it's not going to upset the balance of the car. So you actually can go out and drive this car quite enthusiastically. So whether you choose the X3 or the X4, I guess really depends on your lifestyle. If you need lots of space, if the kids do lots of sports and you're always going away on a holiday, you'd probably go for the X3. But if you want something that looks a little bit sportier, there's maybe only two of you most of the time with the odd occasional passenger in the rear, or the need to carry luggage in the back, then the X4 is probably the better option because it is a better looking car. The downside to it though is that the X4 does cost a fair bit more than the X3, to the tune of about $12,000. So that is a fair chunk of money for a car that looks a little bit nicer than its sort of square cousin. But if you're spending $124,000, 136 isn't really that much more, is it? So that's the end of the video, guys. It's also the end of the week with my time with the X4 M40i. I've absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been a really good car. It's been good to understand the differences between this and the X3 M40i, so it's been really interesting as well. If you've liked the video, don't forget to give it a like, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to find out when the next review comes along. Again, more interesting stuff coming for the rest of the year, so stay tuned. Thanks very much for joining me today. If you've got any questions, please leave them in the comment sections below and I'll answer them as soon as I can for you. In the meantime, thanks for watching and I hope to see you all in the next one.